Drax is on a journey to transform itself into a predominantly biomass-fueled generator. To do this, huge quantities of sustainable biomass are needed. The UK does not have sufficient biomass to meet its needs, so Drax has to look further afield. The United States is home to some of the world's largest sustainably managed forests. These vast forests supply the timber, pulpwood, and now pellet industries.
A lot of the land in this area is too poor for cropland, but it's good for timberland, and if there was no market for timber, then we would not own the land. We grow loblolly pine, slash pine, and sand pine. On the better sites, loblolly pine and slash pine has managed to eventually grow a saw timber tree. Sand pine is grown on excessively well-drained sites. It's not suitable for saw timber and is good for pulpwood or pellet wood. In the past, it would have been piled up and burned on site, and now we're able to send this material to the pellet mill and burn it in a power plant and make electricity out of it. To make sure that the forest is sustainable, we continue to replant everything that we harvest. It's very important to get the trees back in the ground as soon as feasible to have a continuous supply of timber to harvest.
The type wood that we purchase is the low-value product. That can include limbs, tops, forest residuals. The process of making pellets requires us to account for all the carbon that is emitted in the process, and we calculate the greenhouse gases from the time it's planted all the way to the making of the pellet, all the way to the pour. We care very much about sustainability because we need the resource for years going forward and not just for today. There are a lot more trees than there were 100 years ago in this area due to the fact that there are markets for timber. In reality, landowners are shrewd and they realize that if there's a market for their wood, that they will continue to plant it and to manage their forest in a way that it maximizes production.
Drax's aim is to be the leader in responsible and renewable power generation, ensuring that its suppliers adhere to stringent sustainability guidelines.
Every year, we grow over 100 million seedlings in our company nurseries, and we plant over half of those, over 60 million, on our own company lands each year. The pellet industry is really complemented the rest of the forest products industry in a nice way that helps ensure that we're getting the very most out of the forest. The difference between a managed forest and a natural forest is a natural forest, basically, if you left it on its own, over time, the strongest trees would outgrow the weakest trees would die. In a managed forest, we go in and remove the weaker trees at certain intervals, thereby allowing the larger trees, the stronger trees, to grow more quickly and provide more fiber in a shorter amount of time. Within 2 years of harvest, we will replant 100% of the acres, and so it's a very sustainable process. There's really no danger of deforestation due to the arrival of the pellet industry because we're very careful about the way that we model growth, and we're really growing far more than we're harvesting each year. In 1999, Plum Creek was one of the first timber companies to commit to third-party verification under the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, which is important to companies like Drax that want to prove a sustainable flow of timber into their facilities.
The US is well placed to serve Drax's needs. Their managed forests cover over 750 million acres, with growth exceeding harvest every year for the last 50 years. The US Department of Energy estimates that even after other forest industries have taken their cut from the annual forest harvest, 93 million tons of wood residues are left to rot or are burnt every year. This amount dwarfs the UK's likely requirements for biomass. Despite there being no shortage of wood, This is a new market, and so investment is needed to build the infrastructure throughout the supply chain. This is why Drax is building 2 new pellet plants in the southern United States, as well as a new storage and export facility at the port of Baton Rouge.
So what you'll see here when the construction is complete is a state-of-the-art facility to manufacture wood pellets. From here, the pellets will be transported to the port facility, from where they will be stored and then loaded onto a cargo ship. They will then be transported to the United Kingdom and eventually to the Drax power station. This facility itself has had a tremendous impact in this area. This particular mill itself will have 50 full-time employees, but the residuals are endless. There are transportation needs, there are fuel needs, just to name a couple. We are centrally located within a 60-mile radius of the resources that we'll be using at this facility. In addition to that, we're about 60 miles north of Baton Rouge, where the port is located from which we'll ship these pellets.
There's tremendous benefits to being in the location where we are. We're at the head of the deep water of navigation on the Mississippi River, approximately 228 miles inland from the Gulf of Mexico, and we're right in the middle of the agricultural and wood basket of the state of Louisiana. Drax is making a significant investment to develop and construct a wood pellet exporting facility in the form of 2 eco-domes to store the wood pellets in, as well as on the land side, truck and rail dumps to handle the delivery of the pellets. The result of this investment that Drax is making is very significant, not only to the port, but as well as to the state of Louisiana, both regionally and locally for our businesses.
With these new investments, Drax is helping to reshape the power generation industry, ensuring power is there when it is needed, and that it doesn't cost the earth.